What's the coolest thing you own that isn't expensive? When my great-grandfather died about 30 years ago, the only thing he willed to anyone in particular was his watch, which he gave to me, his oldest great-grandchild. It's not a fancy watch, just a working man's Bulova wind-up, but it was gifted to him by his notoriously stingy father-in-law in the early 70s. It still keeps perfect time. I work at NASA and managed to get it flown on a space shuttle mission. TLDR, a 50-year-old watch given to my great-grandfather by my great-great-grandfather. The watch has been to space. My early 2000s Toyota Corolla. It's definitely seen better days, but it has this could never die attitude that I love. When I bought it, I paid $14,000. It's probably worth a couple $100 now. It has 250k plus miles on it and it still keeps going. Never had to replace anything, except tires. The paint is chipped. There's a bunch of dings and dents and rust spots. The air conditioning doesn't work and the CD player is busted. But it starts every time with zero lag. It never complains, and has been my trusty steed. Sure, I've had other cars since then that are still around, but my Corolla, though it might not be cool to some, it's definitely a trusty bucket of rust and bolts that is way beyond cool to me. A poem book that I got recently. It's called Nos Maduros and it was part of a competition for poets that never got the chance. My dad passed from cancer when I was 6 and he died before knowing if he won. He did, and his poem was dedicated to me. When I visited the Dead Sea, I found a string that had been tied into a loop, that had a lot of salt stuck to it, so it looks like a necklace made of salt. It might not sound like much, but I thought it was a pretty unique souvenir. A kepi blank, the classic white hat of the French Foreign Legion, given to me by a person in the process of deserting. I was on a train when this giant guy tells me that he just deserted from the Legion. He said, "Don't believe me, here's my uniform," and opened up his duffel bag. I said, "Cool, how much for the hat?" To which he replied, "I don't need it anymore. Here," and handed it over. It's my favorite hat from my collection. The guy made my name out of a wire coat hanger, was just waiting in line at the store one day and he said he did it as a hobby. Pulled out a coat hanger and twisted it until it spelled my name in cursive. It's part of my key ring now. I have a bandsaw that I paid $20 for. Perfectly working condition now. The guy told me it was eating blades and wanted to get rid of it. Turns out he had installed the blades behind the bearings, not between them. Here is how they are supposed to be installed. https://s940wk/b2145.1280/products/738/b2145.org.14355_jpg CE equals 2 and bypass equals on. I asked somebody on Reddit to make little stuffed animals of characters I love from a game. They included a really awesome random drawing from the series as well. I love that little doodle to death. I mean, the intended product was amazing too, but that little drawing has been laminated and taped to my computer case. If you ever want awesome work done, at a fair price from a friendly person, look up Rania Doolin, just awesome stuff. A fired clay sculpture of a warty toad. It's worthless, $20 at any pottery store, and that's being generous, but for me it is something of a talisman as it's one of the last physical mementos I have of my beloved grandmother who died several years ago. It was sent to her by her sister, who was in every way the stereotypical crazy great-aunt, and she didn't care for it, but I was rather amused by it and she said I could have it. It's sat on my nightstand for a decade and whenever I see it I think of her. beer bottle opener ring. It's like $4 on Amazon. I've had it for over 10 years. Looks nice, works great. I turn it around on my finger to use it, and if people aren't paying attention, it just looks like I ripped the bottle cap off with my bare hands. I bought a bucket hat for $10 last spring. On the inside of the hat is a small Velcro pocket. It's big enough to put like cash and your ID and a credit card in. It keeps the sun out of my eyes and off my neck, ears. I look sexy out in it. And I have a secret pocket. What more could you want for $10? I have a family-owned machete. I don't know much about it. I asked my father where did it come from, and all he remembers was getting it from his dad. He tried getting it back, but I told him I use it to cut coconut soap and haha. Update: http://imgur.com/a/blur. Here's the machete just in case you all were curious. A prism. Prisms are great. They're satisfyingly weight glass pyramids that make rainbows when you put them up into the light, and you can buy them at any museum gift shop. What's not to love about them? I even got a trichromatic prism which, instead of splitting light into a rainbow, splits it into 3 different colors. Usually RGB, but shining the light at different angles gets you different colors because of how light is additive. Because it's a beam splitter. Honestly, optics in general are great, but prisms have the best bang for your buck and are the easiest to get a hold of. My mom's original art, all framed in cheap frames I got a while back. She's not an artist professionally, but she damn well could be. I have 6 of her pieces in my little apartment, and they are so beautiful. Edit: you guys are very sweet. She used to post a lot of it to Insta_Tamar_s_catch, but here are 2 of my favorites. She's an architect, and I think you can tell. She usually doodles these while talking on the phone. https://imgur.com/a/code7wc. A pair of cufflinks my future father-in-law made for all the men in the family. The wood he made it from is over 2,000 years old, with the carbon dating papers to prove it. Edit: here they are. A Robin Williams signed poster of the movie Hook. He sent it for free. My girlfriend sent a letter to every person with his name in the US with a letter about my struggles with anxiety and filmmaking and how much the movie has helped me through the years. She surprised me with his response on my birthday. The world sadly lost him not long after that. It is my most prized possession. About 10 years ago I bought a piece of canvas and oil artwork from a street artist in Monrovia, Liberia, Africa. I bought it for like $10. It's on a rough cut piece of canvas, with asymmetric edges, but it's painted in deep, bold beautiful colors, which just pulls in the observer. The theme is a group of people all dancing close together, with arms raised and legs and arms entwined in dance. And all of the people are half black, half white, literally half of face black, other half of same face white, and all are wearing bright, beautifully colored, beautifully patterned clothing. This painting just exudes joy and harmony of people. I had it framed in a natural wood frame that augments and complements the earth tones of the painting. The frame cost me many times more than what I paid for the artwork itself. It's the centerpiece of art in the living room of our home. My desk and armoire. Bookcase. My dad and I built a matching desk and armoire for my in high school, and recently my parents retrofitted the armoire with shelves for my scores and record player. I've taken the desk with me everywhere I've lived and it feels great to have the matching set again. Reminds me a lot of my dad and how much fun we had designing and building them. Smile. Update: I was asked for pictures. I uploaded them to a Google Drive link here if you're interested. I have a small watercolor painting that my great-uncle painted of my grandfather putting up hay on his farm in the late 1950s. My great-uncle was colorblind and most of his paintings were landscapes in muted tones that closely reflected how his eyes saw the world, earth tones and grays. The painting of my grandfather is an exception. The colors are warm and vibrant, happy. It's got more sentimental value than anything, but I still have one of my grandfather's pocket knives that I saw him once use to restart a tractor in the coolest fashion possible. He didn't do anything other than jam the knife into the engine and it started. I think I was 9 or 10 when he did it. Not sure what he did and my dad doesn't remember the story lol. We were out cutting firewood with my dad and uncle on my grandparents' 500-acre farm and it was starting to snow heavy. The tractor had died and we were a long ways from home. He doesn't get that restarted, we have to walk back in a snowstorm. It was a cool memory. When my dad was younger they were tearing down a Catholic church in Chicago. He talked someone into giving him one of the stained glass windows. He encased it in a wood frame and backlit it. It's freaking huge, pretty at night, and brings back fond memories of him. I'm very fond of my domovoi, this sort of Slavic house guardian. He's a little hand-carved soapstone domovoi, got the original chunk of stone and the appropriate tools in a little kit for like $30. He's a little naked old man with an enormous beard to keep him modest, though since I'm apparently a giant 8-year-old I couldn't resist the urge to carve him a little old man butt. A cheap plastic pour-over coffee dripper. You get literally no added benefit from the expensive ones. Except aesthetics. You could theoretically make do with a fucking sawn-off bottle top. Amazing coffee. No need for fancy brewers or anything like that. A good coffee grinder, however, is a good investment. There are so many, but I'll choose the first I glanced at. My anniversary edition of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds with illustrations by Edward Gorey. My middle school had that edition in its library, and it fascinated me. The library card was full of my name on one side and down the other. I didn't know it was a famous artist, just that it was deeply evocative. So when I found out that it was a celebrated edition and being re-released, I had to get it. I have a Monstra Deliciosa that was once small enough to fit in a fairly small, long box for shipping. With the right care and increasing sizes of plant pots, it has grown into this massive beauty that sits near my bed. I've had it for about 4 years now and I love it. It's about 120 centimeters tall now. Probably either my collection of small dragon statues, between £1.2 and £30.40 each depending mostly on size. I have a small shelf of them, a bulb of a rare variety of daffodil, flower record, a daffodil variety named after me. My granddad breeds them. OFC the coolest things I own are my self-built £1,000 PC and my Switch, but those are the expensive ones. My sister went to New Zealand about 4 years ago with a friend who was born there. I didn't know it at the time, but they visited a small village where they were told of a tradition, belief. Basically, the oldest sibling in a family wears a jade stone, as a necklace or even just carrying it with you, not necessarily as jewelry. When their younger sibling gets to the age of majority, not sure how to say this, but basically where I come from it's 18, but that's not the case in every culture. The older sibling gives them that stone and they believe that means they are now carrying the piece of their soul with them. My sister wore that jade stone as a necklace for 4 years. I even complimented it once or twice but didn't think more about it. And then she told me the story and gave it to me for my 18th birthday. Jade stones aren't expensive at all, but the sentimental value of the necklace is what makes it so cool. Was given to me, piece of the Giza pyramids. A family member worked in Egypt in the 80s and went on a tour of the pyramids. Back then they didn't care about taking a hammer and knocking off a small chunk for you. She got 3 small chunks and eventually gave me one. A wallet with the seal of the Pakistan Senate on it. Apparently Pakistani dignitaries would hand them out to service workers like limo drivers and hotel staff. A limo driver my dad did some work for had a bunch of them and gave me one. Tough to choose. I work at a dump, so I have a lot of cool garbage. Probably the 110-year-old working fountain pen. Found it at a junk shop for $5 all clogged up. I restore pens as a hobby, and I was able to fix everything except the nib, which was broken. A few years later I happened to find a box of nibs in the trash. And they fit. Now I take notes with the pen older than my grandma. Signed things from 2 of my favorite artists. I met both of them on separate events. The first one was in 2018 and I only paid around $60 for a meet and greet. The second one was in January 2020 and was actually the old vocalist from that band I met in 2018, and I met and got a hug, photo and an autograph from him for free. $24 800 milliliters French press. It's got a cool bronze aesthetic and you can make an absurd amount of coffee, cold brew, hot brew or tea that'll last you for the whole day. The scarf that my granny knitted for me. It was probably made with a ball of yarn, but it's the most sentimental item I own and has helped keep me warm on many winter days. Even though she is gone from this world now, she still gets to hug me and keep me warm every time I wear it. A gardening hoe from. Well, I'm not sure when it's from. Probably the colonial era, by which I mean the English colonial era because I live in Massachusetts. It looks really old. I found it when I was working for this lady digging this giant patch of thistles out of her farm. I suppose you could say I don't own it though, since I didn't buy it. I don't remember if I asked her if I could keep it or not, but technically she didn't own it either because she was renting the land from the town, and the town probably just repossessed it whenever the original family who owned it either died or left. The thing I have isn't real, it is in a video game, a mobile game known as Free Fire. I just play the game as time passed and got a pants as a check-in reward. After 2-3 years it turned out to be its most demanding item in game. A guy offered me $600, 42'000 in Indian rupee press. After so many offer I got for my account, it feel me old means I was playing a game for so long that people are offering so high cost that I could make my family tension free for a year about my study. I have balding balls for exercising my hands. After cervical stenosis and spinal decompression surgery, they strengthen the hand and help improve coordination. If I remember correctly, the pronunciation of balding sounds something like boding. As you work them in your hands they make a sound like a muffled wind chime. They are made in China and have dragons painted on them. I don't exercise as regular as I should, but they have seemed to help some. I have my very own fossil weeds. See, there's this town called Republic, Washington. They have a quarry where millions of years ago a landslide buried a swamp. People can go in, poke through the rocks, which by the way are layered like shale, and are easily pried apart with chisel or even hands, and look for fossils. Most are leaves, but you may also find little minnows and such. How it works is that you gather your rocks and show them to the attached museum staff. They have the right to snag anything that they need for their research, but you can keep the rest. It's all free, but they do accept donations. A Patek Philippe watch that I got in a box of junk a woman was just trying to get rid of at my work. She was closing down the estate of her mother and found a literal shoebox of junk. It was mostly filled with costume jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, earrings that were popular back in the 40s/50s/60s. Gaudy stuff with fake glass or plastic gems. Must have had 30 different pieces. A ring ended being a real pearl. but the gold was fake. Got it made into a necklace for my daughter. At the bottom of the box was a smaller, very worn ring box, but bigger than a normal ring box, so I opened it and found a watch inside an old felt bag that was falling apart. I got the whole box for $1. The watch is worth more than a new car.